Hello, this story is to the enjoyment of a friend and some of you who would be interested in some Hmong myths and superstitions. It is said that there was once a kingdom located in northern China, or the land north of China. That kingdom was ruled by an emperor by the name of Qi Yu. To this very day, China's history will detail a man that they have battled with. That they battled with this guy so much that some of them even revered this man. This man was named Chi Yu, as mentioned. And during that time, Hmong people were said to be a prosperous people. Their civilization was rich, collecting taxes from neighboring nations. At the time, the Hans, which would be later known to you and others as Chinese. However, during that time, it was said that Hmong people had their own writings and they were not illiterate. They were a literate people. Sometime after the fall of Yu, the Hmong people, they lost their civilization, they lost their country, they lost their identity. Much of the reason why they lost their identity was that they were taken as slaves. In the spoils of war, the losers often lacked the pen to write or depict history. Such was the case with the Hmong people. However, stories have passed down from father to son, grandfather to grandson, and so forth. The rich oral traditions of the Hmong people has been trickling away to a point where it seems to be just a small, bubbling spring, no longer a river, stream, or a creek. However, I will attempt to recall some stories that I've heard as a child. And in this collective freestyle, if you will, non-written, no verbal cue, just depicting the stories as if I've heard it from my grandfather's mouth. In those days, I would listen to him tell me tales with eager eyes and open ears, and that way I hope you receive these words. One of the greatest thing about Hmong people is they love to procrastinate. But having procrastinated enough, without further ado, I'll get right into number one in no particular order. Number one, myths, superstitions, and legends of the Hmong people is that Hmong people cannot refuse the dragon. It is said that the dragon is all-knowing, all-wise, that it can shape change. It can come as its true form, a brilliant, magnificent dragon. For in the beginning of time, it was the dragon that carved the mountains, the pathways that led the Hmongs into the earth. It was his body that carved the rivers and the canyons. He can be giant, so giant that we can't even fathom his size. As big as the universe itself, for the universe has no end. In that sense, he can also be as small as a tiny grain of almost nothing in your palm. He can become a human being. There was once an old story of an orphan boy, very poor, wearing nothing but tattered clothing. He was raised by his father's brother, and they did not love him as their own. They used him much in the way you would use an ox or a beast of burden. From this, he had a very, very poor, a very abusive life. He was often stepped on, spit on, starved and abused in more ways than one. One particular afternoon, he overheard his uncle and aunt discussing him. They were saying, "What will we do with this boy? He's become a teenager now, and soon he'll want to marry. We can't afford to buy a wife for him." For in Hmong culture, the word for marriage is yua, which translates directly into the word buy. When you yua panya, meaning buy woman. That was the translation of what you would call marrying a woman. However, to marry a woman, you would have to literally pay for her. In those days, a wife could cost as much as one musket, two horses, three pigs, and so on, depending on however much the bride's family had set the price. Of course, it was open to negotiations, and sometimes these negotiations would take afternoons all the way to early mornings. Thus, this ritual still carried on into the Hmong community today. However, the poor orphan boy heard this, and he realized it was no longer wanted. So he gathered what he could, and he started to wander into the forest, into the wilderness. He wandered for days until his legs ached and his belly hunger for any substance. His lips parched, wanting so much to relieve itself with any moisture. As luck would have it, he came across this beautiful, crisp, clean, crystal reflected blue pool. And he thought to himself, how wonderful, how lucky I am. Wow, I could quench my thirst, wash myself. Without a moment's hesitation, he dived right into the pool, drinking as he was swimming, swimming as he was drinking, washing as he went, until he heard this voice from behind him. Quickly he turned around. "Excuse me, sir?" As he squinted, wiping the water from his eyes, to see an old man, tall, yet his skin was beautiful, like that of a young man's skin, shiny, wrinkleless. Yet this old man sported a Fu Manchu, a magnificent white, snow white Fu Manchu beard that surpassed his waist. And the boy looked up at this being, the boy with respect, for he was a poor, poor orphan boy, but he was rich in manners, and he bowed down from the place he was, knee deep in the water at this time. He bowed down again until he bowed down 3 times, and he says, "Grandfather, I beg your pardon. Could you please repeat yourself?" The old man glared at him, this time not so angry, impressed by the young orphan's attitude. The old man spoke again. "Why have you come to my home and filter it? Why have you come and littered, spoil my home like this?" Confused, the orphan boy looked around at the pond that he was now stepping out of. Looking back at the pond, then he realized this must be a being, a creature that owned this pond. There could only be one creature that could own such a beautiful, pristine, crystal clear pond. This must be the dragon. Now he begged for forgiveness. "Grandfather, I did not know. I did not know, grandfather. Please forgive me. May I offer my service to you to help clean this, to help lift up every blade of grass, every blade of vegetation that I have stomped on. May I erase my footprints from the shore. May I—" "It's okay," the old man interrupted. "You are a very rare gem of your kind, young one, for you have the manners and the wisdom of an old man and those sad eyes of yours. Come to me so that I can read your aura." As the dragon read the poor orphan boy's aura, the dragon understood exactly what was going on. The poor boy turned to the dragon and said, "Grandpa, I'm sorry, I was very hungry." "Shh, you need not speak. I understand you have traveled so far. And who am I, and where's my hospitality? Would you like to come with me and have dinner with me?" The orphan boy was taken back, so deeply back. "But, grandfather, I cannot. I haven't done anything to deserve." You cannot refuse the dragon, young one. Come with me. Yes, grandfather. Yes. The dragon shape changed into a beautiful golden reddish dragon with color gleaming in the sun like the ultraviolet rays from one spectrum to the other. And in one moment, one quick motion, unbeknownst to the poor orphan boy, he was on the back of this dragon and they were flying up in the clouds and deep dived into the pond. And that little pond expanded into a whole entire world, a whole entire universe. There were castles made of pure gold, silver, platinum, all the riches that men desire, that men greed for. This was just normal for the dragons. It was so much like as if it was just the sheet metal on your house or the drywall inside. He was at all. And when they landed, there were servants, beautiful servants, in beautiful garments, colorful silk that he never thought existed. Some looked like they were interweaving with gold strings. Jade hang upon their necks, gems hang upon their ears, and dress and adorn their body, their fingers with it. Before him, the servants had laid out a huge table, almost 30 meters long, full of all the food that one could imagine, from roast pheasant deep in the jungles of India. There were grains from all corners of the universe. Red rice, white rice, jasmine, maize, wheat, all sorts of tubers, all sorts of game from many corners of the darkest, deepest jungles, fish beyond your imagination, and fruits that looked so delicious. The poor orphan boy's stomach began to growl. The poor orphan boy realized he had not eaten in days, and never in his life has he ever truly been fed. He's never felt anything that remotely resembled satisfaction in his belly. His mind began to wander, but his head became light. He awoke in a bed. Beautiful was the ceiling, painted by what could only be described as magic, for the picture kept changing every time you looked at it. The walls became bigger and smaller, and as one would inhale and exhale. A servant came up, so he thought, beautiful. She bowed down to him. She said, little orphan boy, how are you doing this morning? You have been asleep for many days now. There was a long silence until the maiden asked again, little orphan boy, do you refuse to speak? You know I am the dragon princess, and you can never refuse a dragon. As hard as he could, he swallowed, but nothing happened. He opened his mouth, unable to speak. Oh, you are thirsty. Of course. She called upon the servants, and they brought forward. Choose from the dragon fruits. Choose from all sorts of fruits that you could imagine. Water from the deepest wells and the clearest, most crystal clean streams. He quenched his thirst, and he wiped his eyes. He spoke finally. Princess, I do not deserve this honor for you to bestow such greatness in front of me. Shh. Next to you, you will find the garment my father has left for you. He has requested that you join him tonight for dinner, for you didn't eat one bite a week ago when you arrived. From this humble beginning, the orphan boy would conduct himself appropriately, impressively, so much so that the dragon princess would fall in love with him. And in another day, in another time, I shall continue on about that story. But the important thing is, we Hmongs can never refuse the dragon. For doing so is virtually taking one's own life, throwing it and discarding it, setting fire to one's own soul. We can never refuse the dragon. Of course, the dragon can never abuse this power either, for everything has balance. The creator, known as Yosho, Yosho is all-knowing. He keeps the balance between good and evil. For if dragon's heart should become evil and force man to do things that he cannot refuse and acts of evil, Yosho will destroy dragon as well. So in this way, we have taken that oath to always be in our own places. And as time would come, each animal had their own places, which leads us to myth number 2. In the beginning, when man was just a child on earth, Yosho gifted man of dog. Dog was wise and dog was old. Men was young and naive. Men had a twin brother called Demon, for we came from the same thread, for that each of us also have a thread of demon inside of us. But in those days, men's brother, older brother, Demon, was wiser. Having been older and living longer in this world, he became more wise, more knowledgeable. And as sometimes those with knowledge can become wicked and crooked in their ways, so was Demon. Until one day Dog had enough, and Dog bit Demon. And Demon, being the coward that he is, I curse you, I will go tell your show. I will go tell your show. Your show summoned man, Demon, and Dog to a private meeting, a private council. For on this particular moment, Yosho had heard too much. His patience had been pushed too thin, for it was always one thing or another with these three. Antelope swift, eagle with his sharp eyes, deer with this remarkable hearing, bear with this unforgiving nose that could smell even your greatest lies. All these were spies or friends of Yosho, and all these spoke to Yosho. And when Demon ran to Yosho to complain, that was the needle that broke the camel's back. Yosho had had enough of these three troublesome children of his. So he sat them before him, and in the middle of them sat a great burning fire, until that fire died down and smoldered. They sat there for hours and hours without saying a word. Man being naive, yet patient, endure. Dog being dog and temperamental, begin to wonder and stir in its mind, why is Yosho sat out here? That demon, that tattleteller, that evil, two-faced, split-tongued snake. It has to be him. He said he would tell on me, and certainly he did. Yosho must be planning on something today, something big. These ashes before us that once was a fire. Just then Yosho said, "Now I shall speak. You three have been giving me so much headache that on this day I shall make it to where you no longer can see one another. Dog, you and man shall be together, for I gifted man with your presence to guide him. But yet you bit Demon, and Demon, you're so mean to these other beings that you deem less than you. Jealous and often so cruel. From this moment forward, I shall take care of that. Before you is the ashes of that fire that blew big and grew hard and high. Now I want you to grab those ashes and spread it into your eyes. Demon, being the trickster that he was, all while the fire was burning, he somehow knew what Yosho was going to do, and he had prepared his mind for this moment. So he reached out and grabbed a handful, but just as his hand left the pile of ashes, he let go the abundance of the ashes. Only the ash prints laid in his hand, though he still clutched onto it like his hands were full. And he spread it quickly in his eyes and he screamed, ah, that's hurt, that's too much, that's too much. Yosho said, can you see, man? No, I can't see anything. Very well. Demon looked over at man and a small smile formed at the edge of his mouth. Yosho said, man, now your turn. Man, being so naive, grabbed such a big amount and poured into his eyes, and it stung and it hurt and it bled his eyes until he could not see Demon. Can you see Demon? No, Yosho, I can't see anything. Next to you is a cup of water. Wash your eyes out with that so it can restore your sight, only enough so you can see Dog. As man did so, his vision came back and he was able to see Dog. But no longer could he see Demon. Demon was invisible to him. Yosho asked, can you see Dog, but not Demon? Man said, Yosho, father, I can only see Dog now. Good. Dog watching this, and Dog being just as clever as Demon, but had the heart of the dog, the loyalty, the unending unwillingness to ever forbid man, to ever leave or abandon man. Dog's mind went farther ahead down the path and saw what lay before them. So Dog knew what Demon did. And Dog did the same exact thing with his paws, but when the ashes touched Dog's face, Dog jumped up and down and ran around circles. What's going on, Dog? Yosho said. Oh, father, I can't see. Open your eyes, Dog. Oh, can you see anyone? Oh, I can only see man. Very well. Oh. As that moment was captured into man's mind, little did he know Dog could still see Demon. But Demon was mischief and clever. Demon, after the meeting, walked out and said to Dog, I know you can still see me, and quickly marked Dog's eyes with 2 tan markings above Dog's eyes, forever being able to distinguish Dog from a distance, that Dog could still see the Demon. Yosho, happy with this, Yosho departed. But at that moment, Dog and Demon knew they could still see each other. From that time till now, Hmong people, the old ways, those that still believe in that, cherish dogs with these, what we call 4 eyes. 2 to see man's world, and 2 to see the demon's world. Dogs such as the Min Pin, Doberman Pinscher, the Rottweiler. These dogs are very sought after. These dogs are very, very treasured by the Hmong people, by those who still remember the old ways. That is a myth, and that is why the Hmong people highly treasure dogs with the so-called 4 eyes. In those days, sitting quietly on Yosho's shoulder was Cat, and Cat was clever. Cat was intelligent. Cat was God's companion. And God said to Cat, I want you to stay and remain here in this world to keep an eye on them. You shall be my eyes. And throughout the eons, cat has always stayed on the outskirts and sometimes within the man's heart. Yet you can never own a cat. The cat does not belong to you. The cat belongs to your show. Thus, to this day, Hmong people can never buy a cat. It is forbidden. These are the omens. These are the superstitions. Hmong people can never sell a cat, for you cannot sell what is priceless. You cannot sell or buy something that you can never own. This is the majestic cat. And in those days, man's soul returned to his body through his head. And demon would try to capture man's soul by touching man's head. From that moment on till now, it is forbidden to ever touch a Hmong, particularly a Hmong baby and a Hmong man on the head, as if you were reaching out. Even in an act of endearment, you are not supposed to touch a Hmong baby's head or a Hmong man's head. Hmong women, you are never supposed to cross over them, walk over their legs or any part of them. And this extended to all Hmong people, that if a Hmong is laying down, you cannot walk over their body. For this is considered stealing their soul. The last myth or superstition I will speak of in this session today is that nighttime, the world becomes the realm of the demon. There is one thing, one great sin that Hmong people are not to do. One biggest taboo, and that is whistling at night. It is said that if you whistle at night, that is the invitation for demon to come take your soul. At nighttime, Hmong people, those who don't remember, you are not supposed to whisper too loud or whistle too soft. You are not supposed to scream at night. But most of all, never invite demon into your world by whistling after the sun has dropped and faded away. But above all, you can never deny a dragon. And so, with the eyes that you have now and what you can see, should you ever see something that is just not right, something that doesn't seem like it belongs, and you should hear a voice behind you, mind your manners. These are the sweetest memories that I recall from my grandfather's stories, and I hope that you enjoyed it. With that, I sayonara and wish you a blessed morning, day, night, evening, wherever you are in the world.